Hi, welcome back to Phil and Watches. I'm Phil, and this is the watch. Here is the Grand Seiko nicknamed Snowflake SPGA 211, and it's a good watch. This is my watch. I'm not sponsored by Grand Seiko because I only have 3.5 subscribers. But yes, so this is my watch. I bought it a couple weeks ago of a seller on Facebook. So yeah, let's talk about the box. The box is your standard Grand Seiko box, dark blue color, and it includes box and papers and extra links, but it's pretty standard, nothing special. So the Snowflake is actually, this one is from 2018. It first came out in 2010, but still under the brand name Seiko. And in 2017, that's when they changed the Grand Seiko logo to be on top instead of the bottom. So it's an iconic piece, just like the sub to Rolex or the Royal Oak to AP. The Grand Seiko is usually largely known for its spring drive and this specific model, the Snowflake. This specific model has a 41mm case, 12.5mm thickness, and the spring drive movement. And both the case and the bracelet together only weigh 100 grams because it's made of fully titanium. And it has a really great look to it compared to stainless steel. The movement is the 9R65 spring drive movement, and has a 72 hours power reserve and a display case back, and it's also decorated. Boom, roasted Rolex. And I think it's a great movement. It has a sweeping seconds. That means when you look at it, you can't see the tick that most quartz watches or even mechanical watches do. So I think that is an aspect that, if you like that, is very appealing. And also, it is very accurate to plus minus 1 second a day, and it has a date display. And so when you pull the crown out, the first position is to wind the watch, second position is to change the date, and third one is to set the time. And you have hacking seconds as well. So I think overall is a very robust and reliable movement. The price for this watch is really fair. It's 5.8k new, and for used you could get it for around 4.8 or 4.5 depending on where you're looking at, right? And I think at this price is very good because no other brand could pull off the polishing or using the right machines to achieve the crisp hands or the case, right? So I think at this price there's a lot of value for this watch. The dial of the watch is where it shines. It is actually a multi-layer process. It starts with stamping the initial pattern, and then they add successive layers of coating to create the subtle translucency of the final dial. And when you see it in different lighting, you could really tell the details, and it really looks like snow. That's what they're going for. I think they did a good job at it. The titanium case is extremely light, and also the Sriracha polish you see on this watch is second to none because it really shines in the sun. And when you look at it from different lightings, you could tell far away that this is a Grand Seiko and not any other watch. I really enjoy the blue second hand with the snowflake dial because the blue really shines in a white texture dial, and your eyes just draws attention to the spring drive movement which never stops. And also the indices and the second and hour hand are so crisp. Their manufacturing process allows them to have these sharp, crisp hands, and no other manufacturer could do that. The bracelet and clasp is alright. It's alright. It's light. I mean, it have no micro adjustment, so it kinda sucks that if it doesn't fit you, it doesn't fit you. What are the good and bad about this watch? Well, First, let's talk about the finishing, right? The finishing of the indices, the dial, and also just the hands are second to none. I've owned Omegas, Zenith, Rolex at this price range, and none of them stack up to Grand Seiko because their manufacturing process is all in-house and their machines are very just high-tech and above the rest. Also, the dial design, right? The element from nature. Not many company does that. So that give them a heads up as well. The ability to dress it up and down, right? I think this snowflake could be worn outside in the rain. It could be worn indoors with a cup of coffee or tea. I think it could do, yeah, go anywhere or do anything with the watch. The badge, like I mentioned, the bracelet is aight. It's not very good. And it have the power reserve. Some people hate it, I know. It says it mess up the balance of the dial. I find it very useful. I always like the power reserve so I can know do I need to wind the watch or not. Also, it's very lightweight, right? People doesn't like the fact that sometimes it's lightweight because it feels cheap. In my opinion, I could care less about the weight. Actually, lighter is better for me because I don't feel it when I wear it. And the movement, right? A lot of people hate the sweeping hands, but I love it. And also, people say it's a quartz, right? It's not really a quartz, but some people still associate Grand Seiko movements, the spring drive, with quartz watches, and I don't think that's fair. But that's just me. Who is this watch for? Well, if you want to get recognized by your watch, you should not get a Grand Seiko. So if you like brand names or any brand recognitions, I don't think you should get Grand Seiko because not many people know it. And the people who kind of know it just think it's a Seiko. So if you want recognition, I don't think that would be the watch to get. But if you want something that will last a long time or that will amaze you every time you look at it, then I think this is the watch for you. Just by its finishing and just by its movements, I think it's a very mesmerizing watch. And also, if you like versatility, and that is important to you, I think you could really consider this watch. And this 41mm really wears just like a 39. I think it wears even better than my OP39, and just because the lug is tapered down, and also it feels very light on the wrist and it's not very thick, then I think if you have at least a 6-inch wrist, I think you could wear this watch really well. I compared it in this picture to my 34mm and 39mm Rolex, and also to my Sin UX that is 44mm. And I think it's a great size if you want to try bigger watches but you don't have as big of a wrist, right? Because I think this one really wears smaller than the size suggests. So if you have $6,000 to spend on a watch, which watch would it be? Or do you think it's just not wise in general to spend that much money on a watch, right? Yeah, let me know in the comments below and give me any feedback because I really need it. So thanks guys, I'll see you next time. Next week, we will be looking at this watch. Remember to subscribe.